So Joseph Joe Acabá, Puerto Rico's first man in space, at least that we know of. Thank you for your time with NotiCel's audience. It's a great pleasure and honor to have you with us today.
Thanks for inviting me.
How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
What have you been up to?
So doing well. I'm glad to be here. Recently, I was hired as the chief of the astronaut office, so still working for NASA at the Johnson Space Center. But now, instead of being an astronaut that is preparing to go into space, I'm now more in a leadership role. So a little bit different.
You consider that to be more challenging than actually going to space as an astronaut?
It's challenging, but it's different. You know, of course, it's challenging to go to space. The training is long and it's difficult, and of course, every time you go to space, it's a little bit dangerous. Where now
a little bit, it's a lot of it.
There's some danger there.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want people to forget that. It is not routine to go up into space, and you know, so now in my new role, it is to ensure the safety of the astronauts. You know, there are a lot of people that work to do that, but you know, now I am responsible for that, and you know, I take that very seriously.
But in specific terms, you train the new generation of astronauts. You decide who gets to be an astronaut. How do you describe that side of the job?
So I'm not specifically training them. We have instructors to do that. We have instructor astronauts that help out. You know, of course, I will share my experience with them. You know, part of my job is to help with the hiring of new astronauts, and we hope to hire a new group in 2025. So we'll start that interview process next year. So if anybody's interested in becoming an astronaut, you know, they should go ahead and be ready for that application to come out. So I'm part of that. Also part of my job is to pick the crews that will go into space. You know, we have people right now on the International Space Station. We've had them there for the last more than 20 years. So that's another part of my job, is to do that. But like I said, ensuring the safety of the astronauts, being their representative, that's my primary job now.
You were, a couple of years ago, you were also named a member of the Artemis team. You were selected one of 8, if I'm not mistaken. Or
we had a group of 18 people.
18 people, exactly.
Yes.
Now that you are the head of the astronaut office, does that mean that the possibility of having you walking up on the face of the moon, you know, was discarded? Is it something that when you took the new job, you had to, you know, reckon with that reality? Or
yeah, I did.
Is it still a possibility?
No, you said it very well. I had to kind of reckon with that reality that, you know, my space flying days are over.
You can say that for sure today?
I'll say that for sure today, but you never know in life what happens. You know, if my boss is watching, he'll say, "You're not going to space." But you know, I do. You know, it was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, and I think any astronaut that comes back always misses being there and would love to go back. So, you know, I would love to go back to space. I would love to walk on the moon. And maybe I will not do that with NASA, but there's part of what we're doing here now is trying to get more private industry and companies involved in the space program. So who knows? You might have a chance to go to space.
I would take it if it's presented. So if there's a new generation of astronauts coming on, obviously there are Puerto Ricans in that pool, especially Berrios, astronaut Berrios. He's, you know, making, just like you, getting known by the people of Puerto Rico. How do you see the future of Puerto Ricans in space and their inclusion into NASA? Because, you know, let's not forget, a lot of the workforce that NASA has, many of those people are Puerto Rican or were educated in Puerto Rican universities.
I think a lot of people don't realize the number of engineers and scientists that come from the island that are working for NASA, and there are a lot. And now we have Marcos, and so, you know, he is part of this Artemis generation. You know, where he's going to end up, you know, we don't know yet. He might go to the space station. You know, he might be the first Puerto Rican to walk on the surface of the moon, which would be, you know, which would be awesome. And with the new class coming up, I would encourage people, from Puerto Rico to apply. And diversity is very important to NASA, and it makes for a better team. And so we're always trying to increase that diversity. And the students that come from here bring a unique experience that just makes us all better.
So, as a closing, how many days have you logged in space?
I think they've told me 306 days is what
Almost a year.
Almost a year on 3 different missions. So it took me a while to get there because the space shuttle flight was about 2 weeks long. Mm-hmm. And then I've had 2 long duration flights going up with the Russians. And I kind of joke where Frank Rubio, who just returned, mm-hmm. he did 1 mission and had 371 days in space. So he surpassed me on 1 mission. And so it's, I'm proud of my accomplishments, and there's just so much more ahead that I'm excited for the younger generation of astronauts.
So have you personally suffered any of the consequences of long-term space exposure, if you may? There's evidence of eye damage, muscular atrophy, yeah. Pain. Have you suffered any of those side effects because of your missions in space?
No, I've done really well. So on all of my missions, we do studies before we go to space and when we come back, and so my bone density has remained about the same. Okay. In terms of muscle atrophy, we work out for 2 hours every day, and so most of us don't have that opportunity to work out for 2 hours every day here on Earth. And so when you're up there, a lot of us come back, healthier, but there is still a lot to learn about how the body reacts in space. I know I did have some changes in my vision while I was in space and when I came back. And for me personally, a lot of that fixed itself over time. But we continue to learn about the human body, even though we've been going to space for the last 50 years. But, we're explorers, we're learning new things, and luckily I've been able to maintain pretty good health.
Well, hopefully the next Puerto Rican that goes by your office gets a clean bill of health and a ticket to space.
Yeah, me too. I hope so.
It's an incredible experience that I cannot begin to imagine how cool it is.
Well, if you get the opportunity to go to space, please take it. And I think with what we're doing now with commercial companies, there's going to be more opportunities for people to go to space. So I'm excited about it.
I'll have to interview Elon Musk.
There you go.
Joe Acabá, thank you very much for your time.
Blessed. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.